really appreciate this moment in time where I get to talk to the infamous Susan Bennett, vocal virtuoso, originator of Siri. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be excellent. Welcome, everyone, to the show. As I mentioned earlier, this is Susan Bennett, who's the original voice of Siri. And she's an American voice actress, and she's also a former backup singer for Roy Orbison and Burt Bacharach. We're going to be interested in hearing about that. So, Susan, thank you for being on the OnStage podcast. How are you?
Sure, you're welcome.
Excellent. Can you give us a little bit of a background of how did you end up as the original voice of Siri, and what's going on there?
Well, it was a situation where I was apparently auditioning without knowing it. But I had done a lot of recordings for a company that I still work for, doing messaging and that sort of thing. And the scripts were very different from usual. And I was told that, it was for some sort of generic phone system. And of course, it took a lot of recording. It was 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for the month of July in 2005. Then we did a few months of pickups with different, addresses and things like that. My voice was picked out of that whole group of women that read those recordings. And so I don't know who picked the voice. And Apple hasn't really disclosed any of that information. I do know that Steve Jobs was very involved with the development of the Siri app. So I'm just hoping that maybe it was he who picked me.
Did you ever meet Steve Jobs, by the way?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, that would have been something.
He actually left the planet the day after Siri appeared. So I'm glad at least that he got to see it show up on the iPhone, because I know it took up a great deal of his time and effort.
Well, it's not just your voice, but there's also Australian and French and all these other different voices, and they too must have had their voices stolen as well.
Yes, there were 4 original Siri voices, two of which were male. The Australian voice is female, the British voice is male, and John Briggs, a very well-known BBC announcer. I don't know anything about the French person except that he's male. But yeah, we were the first 4. The plus side of the first 4 is that we can promote ourselves. The voices that came afterwards, they had to sign non-disclosure agreements. But I think that, because we were the first ones, we were sort of iconic. And because we were the first, it was still sort of experimental at that time. So they didn't really know how to handle all of it. So
that's interesting, Susan. Great story. And we realize that not only is Siri the first American voice of Apple Siri personal assistant, but when it was introduced on the iPhone 4S on October 4, 2011. But you're only the voice of Siri up until iOS 7 update in 2013. Why did they just stop using your voice and went with something else?
I don't really know, except for the fact that I think that they were very interested in having the Siri voice be anonymous. So anyone using the Siri voice could imagine the person that had that voice. They didn't really want people knowing who the voices were.
That's interesting. How did you get into this industry anyway?
By accident, actually. I'm a musician and a singer, and I used to be a jingle singer. I don't know if your audience knows what that is, but that it was singers that used to do original music for commercials. And so one day I wish I could remember the product that I'd been singing about. In fact, I should just make it up because it'd be a better story. But after we finished singing, it turns out the voice actor didn't show up to read the copy for the spot. And so the owner of the studio said, "Susan, you don't have an accent. Come over here and read this copy." And I went, "Oh, ding, ding, ding. I can do this." So I got a voice coach and then a talent agent, and that was many years ago. So I've done a lot of voice work since then.
Well, I know you look good. It's like you just walked out of a cryogenic suspension chamber because you look fabulous. But let me think of a jingle that I don't know if maybe this wasn't yours, but a slinky. It's
that was
a
not
beautiful
me.
toy. That wasn't me.
I was based in Atlanta, so I didn't have too many national ones.
Okay.
So yeah.
So tell us about you're always focused on the classics. and you intended to be a teacher. Now, tell us about the Sock and Buskin theatrical productions and being a member of the jazz band and singer with the Chatter Talks, the a
Yeah.
cappella group. How did
Well,
that
that's
go?
I went to Brown University, and Sock and Buskin was the name of the theater group, and I did a little bit of theater work, mostly just musical theater. Um, and once I graduated from college, I realized that I think my talent really lay in music much more so than acting. And so that's why I ended up pursuing things like that. But the jazz band, it was kind of a fusion band. We played a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And that's how I made extra money during college. It was called Conglomerate. And there were five. It was a 5-piece band, and we played all over Newport, Rhode Island, in the summer between semesters. So it was very cool. Yeah, it
That's
was great.
amazing. We're just so enthused to hear the story about Roy Orbison and Burt Bacharach. Sorry that he had
Yeah.
passed away recently. So sad about that. So, can
Yeah.
you tell us about your relationship with Roy Orbison? How did you meet him?
Well, I got to know Roy a lot better than Burt because the tour that I did with Burt was quite short, but I was with Roy's organization for a couple of years, and you didn't really get to know Roy very well. He was a very sort of very private person. And he wasn't one to just, go out drinking with the band or something. He would always just do his show and then disappear into his room. So I didn't really get to see him very much, but it was really, really fun. Everyone in that band was just great. And the other female singer in the band became a very close friend of mine. So it was a great experience. And we traveled all over the world. So that was also cool.
I don't know if this is an off-topic question, but did you attend Roy's funeral? And how many
I
people
did
were in
not.
the procession? Oh, okay.
No,
I
no,
was just interested
no.
how many people showed up for that.
Yeah. No, that was several years after I had been part of the band. And
Oh.
yeah, so
Well, this is amazing. So, your voice has been used for numerous local national television advertisements, including Ford, Coca-Cola, Fisher-Price, McDonald's, the Home Depot. Wow, they just keep using your voice. Do you get residuals every time they use your
well,
voice?
I did back in, I
You
haven't done a
did.
lot of commercial work since I,
Mm.
revealed myself as the voice of Siri. Because it's just, it's just human nature. People want to put you in a box, and when they found out I was Siri, that was the end of that. But some of it has to do with my age too. I mean, it's, advertising has different trends, and advertising is usually very youth oriented. So I don't do much commercial work anymore.
So, in June 2005, the software company ScanSoft was looking for someone to be the voice of database project involving speech construction. So they inquired with GM Voice and selected yours. How did
Yeah.
that happen?
They listened to the voices that were represented by or working for GM Voices at the time. And so as I said before, I don't know how my voice was chosen, and I don't know who did it. So
That's terrible because you could have
yeah.
been a multimillionaire because every time they used your voice for something, you'd be getting residual checks. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry about
except
that, Susan.
that's not the way that type of work, that's not it. If it had been broadcast, and I have made money when someone has used my voice on a commercial spot. I have made money from that. I call my agent and said, okay, my son heard my voice on this commercial, and they'll go get me paid.
What about the Chat GP5? What do you think about that? They may be able to take your
Oh, I
voice
think
and
it's
clone it.
horrifying. I
Yeah,
hate
that's
it.
what I mean.
I just hate
Yeah,
it.
me too.
Pretty soon we're all going to be replaced by bots. I can't stand it.
But who gets paid
Yeah,
for it?
I
That's
don't.
the issue.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, if people want to use that bot and say, oh yeah, let's use them, and we want to get so and so's voice, but we don't want to pay what she would charge. So it could be a very slippery slope, and I don't know. My comment is that, and one of life's great ironies is that the original voice of Siri is a very non-techie. It's not intuitive for me. I don't like it. I don't, it's not organic enough for me. And so, to me, having a piece of technology that can replicate people's voices, to me, is horrifying. I hate it.
It's
Yes, I mean,
incredible.
supposedly AI, has gotten to the level where they can write books you tell them what interests you, and they'll write a book or a story about the things you've
Aha.
suggested.
So some of those people, that authors who are pushing a book that they have come out, might have just used the Chat GPT. Yeah, that's like, oh my goodness, that's cheating.
I don't know. To me, I think it's still, at this point, I think you'd still be able to detect that it was, not a human brain doing that.
So can you give us just one little tiny demo of GPS, like GPS or Siri thing? Okay, Siri, can you give me no wait. Siri, can you tell us where the nearest McDonald's is?
I could, but I'm just not in the mood.
I love it.
Yeah, see, that was the original Siri. That's the thing I think we really miss about Siri now.
Yeah.
Is the original Siri was snarky. I think people would talk to her just to hear what her comebacks would be. I remember the first time, and really one of the only times I talked to Siri, when she had my voice. I said, well, hi, Siri, what are you doing? And she very disgustedly responded, I'm talking to you.
That's amazing. Now, Apple seems to have a lot of secrets. Like, they never acknowledged or confirmed that they used your voice, but audio forensics experts hired by CNN expressed 100% certainty that you were the voice of Siri. Now, what's the success rate of them using, let's say I call somebody and I threaten them that they would be able to take my voice and know 100% certain that it was me?
I have no idea. I have no idea. They when I first, revealed my voice as that of Siri, CNN wanted to do a story, and then they thought, uh-oh, we don't know her. How do we know she's the voice of Siri? So they hired a forensic audiologist, and he did all sorts of testing and everything, and came back and said, yep, 100% she is the voice. And so, I don't know exactly what tests he did to come to that conclusion. But anyway, I know that it was my voice. Anyway, despite the tests. So, yep, that's that.
You could have denied it, though.
Yeah, that's not in my nature.
That's awesome. What are you doing now in voice acting?
I'm not really doing a lot of voice acting, to tell you the truth. I'm still doing auditions through my agents in Los Angeles. And, but, I've sort of been put into this little area. And as I said, it's probably the result of being the original voice of Siri. But also, I think a lot of it has to do with my age, and my voice is a little bit lower than it used to be. It's still fairly young sounding. I mean, but, I do get most of my work is, narration type of stuff, phone messaging, AI characters. I've done a lot of different characters in movies and things like that. So that's kind of cool.
Well, I know that people are going to watch this episode, and they're definitely going to go to that old iPhone and they're going to be searching for one. And I bet you that iPhone is going to rise up in price because the original package.
Wow.
So you can imagine what your iPhone with your voice on it could fetch.
Yeah. This would be the 4S.
Yeah. So tell us about Rick Hinkle. That's amazing.
Yes.
So what do you think of
he's
being
my
married
incredibly
to him?
talented husband. And he and I have worked in a band together for, long before we ever got married. And he's a fabulous guitar player, but he also plays bass and drums, and he's a recording engineer. And check him out on Spotify. He's got an album out now. Just came out a couple of weeks ago, and it's called Rick Hinkle's Song and Dance Man. And of course, that's a tongue-in-cheek thing. And he's got a lot of crazy songs on there. But he's actually, I think his favorite thing is blues and rock and roll. Oldies rock and roll. And he's fabulous.
So tell us about the movies you were in. Lego Batman, Margot.
A lot of times I don't even know that I'm in them. They'll just take my voice and use it. And I was in a Star Wars movie. I just got a residual yesterday for Transformers: The Last Night. And, it's the voice that they're taking is the voice from Scansoft, which became Nuance. And I think a lot of people just go to that company and they say, you know, I just need a bunch of stuff said on the telephone or something else, just generic stuff. And they'll just buy a voice, you know. And but that's why I tell my friends, I said, if you ever hear my voice, let me know, and I'll see if my agent can get me paid.
Well, when you find out that your voice was used in the movie Orgasm.
Orgasm.
Orgasm Inc. 2009.
Well, I've never gotten a residual from them.
I demand it if I were you. Yeah.
Now that might be one I deny.
Why not? This is great. But yeah, so wow, Ori Orbison and Burt Bacharach. So that was sad about Burt Bacharach's passing.
Yes, but you know, he had a long, very full and happy life and successful life, and he lived to his mid-90s. So you know, you can't feel too sorry for him. You know, he had a great life. He wrote just a million fabulous songs.
Yeah, that's interesting. Does any of members of your family want to follow suit as a like voice actor, actress, or in the field behind the camera?
No, not really. My son is a very, very good-looking man, and he's kind of played around with the acting, you know, thing for a while. But he's, you know, I don't think it's the type of job, you know, and you're constantly a freelancer. It's the type of job that you really have to want and really are willing to dedicate lots and lots of time and energy and lots of rejection. You know, so I don't think it interested him enough to do that. So, but
That's amazing.
mhm.
Another thing I kind of enthused about is, you know, I'm Canadian, right? And you know where this is going. Your first husband, Kurt Bennett,
Yep,
from Canadian, was born in Regina, Saskatchewan.
yep.
Wow, that's quite a hockey player. But National Hockey League. Um, do you have? I shouldn't be saying this. Do you have any contact with him, or is it just?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're friends. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah. And
That's
my
good.
son is Kurt's son as well. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
we stay in touch. Yes, absolutely.
How did you end up married to Rick Hinkle? You mind giving us a little bit of idea where you met?
Well, I had known Rick for a while because I was in a lot of different bands in Atlanta, and we mostly did, you know, conventions, weddings, you know, that conferences, different things like that, like freelance instead of just singing in clubs or something, because these gigs actually got paid for these. But Rick would be on you know, in a lot of those bands, and he and I just, you know, developed a friendship right off. Just he's very funny, and he's also an extremely great guitarist. So I was married to Kurt for 21 years, and you know, we should have gotten divorced long before we did, but we finally got around to it in 1992. And, you know, not too long after that, Rick and I just started seeing each other. So that's how that happened. We're both musicians.
That's awesome.
Yep.
If you weren't a voice actress or in this field, what would you be doing instead?
Oh boy, I don't know. Possibly a teacher, possibly a librarian. I love to read. I love the English language. Um, but you know, I'm somewhat artistic, but I don't know that I'm artistic enough to make it a career. But those are my basic interests.
Do you have any? Wasn't there a time when you just wanted to give up?
To give up? No, no. You know, it's, you have to accept a certain, you know, a certain lifestyle and a certain, you have to, you know, kind of gauge your expectations in this type of career because, you know, you just never know what's going to happen. And you know, I suppose if I went for a really long time without working at all, I may have given up, but I was fortunate enough, I'm going to knock on wood, fortunate enough to just keep working. And the thing I loved about it is that, back in the day, you'd go into the studio and you'd work with other voice actors, and it would be really fun. You'd have a give and take and some improv even. And so now that we're all stuck at home in our booths, it's not quite that way. But it's still, every job is different, and I like that aspect of it. And yeah, so it's worked out very well for me. I've been very fortunate.
What advice would you give to anyone who wants to get into voice acting?
Well, everyone wants to get into voice acting now. And it's very different from when I was breaking in, because you would get an agent and then you would do a lot of your auditions in the agent's office. Now, of course, everything's done online. And so you still need to come up with a really good demo, a 60-second demo, starting off with a commercial demo. And then if you want to branch out, a narration demo, an animation demo, and there are a million demos that you could do. But you've got to have something that represents your voice, or what you can do with your voice. And then mostly I think people breaking in are just trying to get into, because you can sign up for voices.com or voice123 and just be bombarded with auditions. And that's the best way to practice, is to keep auditioning. And also, if you're really serious about it, I would recommend that you get a teacher, recommend coaching, because the advertising has trends, and, whether the trend now, and it has been for many years, is just the offhand, performance, just sounding like the guy next door kind of thing.
Oh, I understand that. But they could have taken your voice and just changed the intonation or the inflection. For instance, like, we're not going to hear a Siri when we listen to a Roy Orbison or Burt Bacharach, since you were backup singing. We're like, wait a minute, is that Siri in the background singing?
Yeah.
We're
No,
not
most
going to hear
people,
that.
even when they hear my voice, and it's like only 2 people in the last 10 years have recognized my voice. One was a banker, one was a waiter, and I said, you guys are in the wrong business, because you've got really good ears.
Oh,
Because
wow.
my regular speaking voice is sort of up here, and the original Siri kind of talked down there like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you ever want to prank a pizza place?
No.
No?
Not really. No, not really.
So it's sort of like you just use your Siri voice sparingly, I guess.
Yeah, I use it when people want to hear it. Basically, that's the only time I use it.
They'll be like, Rick Hinkle, make my dinner now. That'd be kind
Oh
of
no,
interesting.
Siri's much more polished than that now. That might have been the voice in 2011, but she's much more of a smooth talker now. She wouldn't have all those, computer pauses in there.
So since we're kind of touching on artificial intelligence, they don't even need humans now. They just take the Chat GP or the AI and they just use that voiceover. Because I've seen that there's something called Real Voices, which is a company allows you to download voices to say what you want it to say with an actual animated version of a person who doesn't actually exist, can talk and share things, and it's not even a real person. That's dangerous.
It is. It's really weird.
It is.
It's really
dangerous.
weird. I grew up at a time where we didn't even have computers, and I'm not talking about iPads or iPhones. I'm talking about a big old cumbersome computer. The very first one didn't have it. So it's it's all been kind of amazing to me. It's all kind of sci-fi to me.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that you're not thrown away and say, well, don't need you anymore. At least you have plenty of jobs in the near future. And but this is wonderful talking to you. And
the thing is that you don't get the sense of humor unless you get the human.
That's exactly right. And that's right. And only humans have talent. Like a machine does not have talent. You think that they might be real people, but they're not. These are positronic brain. They have artificial voices. You can't just say that a robot is going to have feelings.
Right.
It doesn't happen because they still need you. So I think they still need you.
And I think still to this point, I think there's still just that tiny bit of machine sound in there. I don't know that they can 100%, if the algorithms can quite get to the point where they get all of the nuances, the subtle nuances of the human voice.
Yes,
But you bet
exactly.
they're working on it.
Yeah,
They're
but
working on it.
I know. I always bring artificial intelligence up with my guests because it's very interesting, and we've done like a source research on it. And then GPT-5 comes out, and how more real the sounding voices are. You're thinking, really? This is not actual human. This is actual. It's getting dangerous at times because they can make you say things that you never said.
Well, that's the thing that I don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Susan, thank you very much. You're generous with your time. Very nice to meet you, everyone. This is Susan Bennett, who was the original voice of Siri. Before we end the stream, let's do one more. Siri, what's the weather like outside?
I don't know. Why don't you look out the window?
I love it. Thank you, Susan. This is amazing. You really brighten our day. You brighten mine.
Oh,
actually.
good. Well,
Thank you.
thanks so much. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you very much for this time.
I
Appreciate it.
enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
Bye.